Hello, friends. You're watching The Night Watchman, where every day you'll hear a brand new horror story that will send chills down your spine. But to keep bringing you these terrifying tales, we need your love and support. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now let's begin the story. In the heart of Las Vegas, where the strip pulsed like a living vein under garish lights, stood the Mirage Theater. It was 1987, and the city was at its peak of glamour and grit. Tourists flocked to see dazzling shows, but none captivated like Eclipse of Illusions, the magic extravaganza starring Victor Kane. Victor wasn't just a magician, he was a legend. Tall, with slicked-back black hair, piercing blue eyes, and a tuxedo that seemed tailored by shadows, he made audiences believe in the impossible. Victor's signature act was the Vanishing Encore. He'd step into a massive gilt mirror on stage, whisper an incantation in a language no one recognized, and vanish completely. The mirror would shatter into harmless glitter, and he'd reappear in the back of the theater, bowing to thunderous applause. Night after night, sold-out crowds gasped, but whispers circulated among the crew. Victor's tricks weren't all sleight of hand. There was something darker. Victor's real name was Viktor Kuznetsov, born in the 1950s Soviet Russia to a family of itinerant performers. His father, a failed illusionist, died in a botched escape act during Stalin's purges, crushed under a collapsing stage rigged with hidden compartments. Young Victor fled to America in 1974, smuggling himself across the Mexican border into Nevada. Broke and desperate, he bussed on the Vegas fringes, pulling coins from tourists' ears. One scorching night in 1975, at the edge of the Mojave Desert, 40 miles from the Strip, near Area 51's rumored shadows, Victor met Elias Crow. Elias was a hermit, living in a shack made of rusted casino signs. He claimed descent from 17th century Salem witches, exiled to the Americas. "Magic isn't smoke and mirrors," Elias rasped, his eyes milky with cataracts. "It's borrowed time." He offered Victor a deal, a grimoire-bound ritual to make his illusions real. In exchange, Victor would perform the Vanishing Encore exactly 1,000 times, feeding the desert entity Elias called the Hollow One with audience awe, their life force siphoned subtly through applause. Victor laughed it off at first, but after the ritual, blood from his palm smeared on an obsidian shard, his first test, Vanish, worked flawlessly. He stepped through his apartment mirror and emerged in the neighbor's bathroom. No wires, no trap doors, pure translocation. He signed the pact in invisible ink on Elias's yellowed parchment. 1,000 shows, or his soul becomes the Hollow One's eternal plaything. Elias vanished into the sands that night, never seen again. Victor reinvented himself as Kane, rising through Vegas clubs. By 1987, he was headlining the Mirage, his mirror act perfected. But show 999 loomed. Tonight's performance was number 999. The pack ticked like a bomb. The theater buzzed with 2,000 souls, high rollers in Armani, families from Ohio, a few shady types from the mobbed-up backrooms. Backstage, Victor paced, sweat beading under his makeup. His assistant, Lena Marquez, 28, fiery Latina from Reno, with a tattoo of a raven on her collarbone, adjusted his cuffs. They'd been lovers for 2 years, but she sensed his dread. "Vic, you're paler than your ghosts," she teased, though her voice wavered. "Last one tomorrow, Lena. Then we're free. Paris, Monaco. No more mirrors." He kissed her fiercely, tasting salt. The lights dimmed. Spotlights hit the stage. Victor emerged to Sweet Caroline, morphing into ominous strings. He levitated doves, sawed a volunteer, a tipsy accountant named Harold from Cincinnati, in half, all flawless. The crowd roared. Then the finale build-up. "Ladies and gentlemen," Victor boomed, voice echoing like thunder, "for my Vanishing Encore, I step into the void. But tonight, one lucky soul joins me." Gasps rippled. He scanned the front row, locking eyes with a young woman, Sarah Ellis, 24, a cocktail waitress from Henderson. Blonde, wide-eyed, in a sequined top from the gift shop. She'd won a free ticket in a casino raffle. "Sarah," he called, reading her raffle stub projected on screens. Come join the impossible. Sarah hesitated, heart pounding. Her friends nudged her on stage. Victor's charisma pulled her like gravity. He positioned her beside the towering mirror, 10 feet tall, framed in gold, its surface rippling unnaturally under lights. Look deep, he whispered to her, off mic. Her reflection stared back, but its eyes blinked out of sync. The incantation began. Azkath vor Nethel, Shalvor Ekris. Gibberish to the crowd, ancient to the pact. The mirror fogged. Victor took Sarah's hand, cold as ice. Step 1. They both entered. The theater held its breath. Glitter exploded. Silence. Then, Victor reappeared at the back, alone. Applause erupted, but Sarah was gone. Backstage frenzy. Lena checked the mirror's hidden compartment. Empty. Victor, drenched, muttered. She must have panicked, slipped out. But Sarah's friends screamed. Her purse was on stage. Cops arrived by midnight. LVPD, Detective Marcus Hale, a grizzled vet with a bourbon habit. People don't vanish, Kane. Find her or you're done. Victor played cool, but inside, terror clawed. The pact specified his vanishes. Sarah was collateral, the Hollow One's appetizer. That night in his penthouse suite overlooking the Bellagio fountains, pre-construction glow, mirrors warped. Whispers echoed, one more. Feed us. Morning headlines. Magician's trick gone wrong. Waitress vanishes in Vegas act. Victor holed up, chain-smoking camels. Lena confronted him. This isn't the first glitch. Remember Tommy the stagehand in '85? Fell through the trap door, but there was no trap door. Victor confessed fragments. The desert pact, minus Elias. Burn the mirror tonight. We're out. But show 1000 was contractually locked. The Mirage owner, Fat Cat Frankie Russo, tied to Chicago outfits, threatened ruin. Perform or pay $5 million cancellation. Suspicion mounted. Sarah's fiancé, Jake Rollins, a burly casino dealer, rallied protests outside. Detective Hale grilled Victor. Your Soviet background, KGB tricks, or occult crap? Victor stonewalled. That afternoon in the theater's basement, dusty prop room amid forgotten guillotines, Lena found Elias's grimoire. Hidden in the mirror's base, pages brittle, sketches of a desert maw, hungry for souls. Ritual to break, shatter the obsidian shard during Vanish number 1000, chanting reverse words. But risk, the Hollow One manifests fully. Crowd bigger than ever. Gawkers drawn by scandal. Jake in front row, fists clenched. Hale in shadows, nursing coffee. Lena slipped Victor the shard, wrapped in silk. Mid-act, smash it. I'll cue the shatter. Lights down. Victor's hands shook levitating orbs. Doves exploded into black feathers. The Saw Woman act. Volunteer Mrs. Patel from L.A., screaming authentically. Finale loomed. Sarah's spirit watches tonight. Victor ad-libbed, voice cracking. Mirror rippled violently. Incantation. Azkath. Mid-phrase, he palmed the shard, smashed it on the frame. Crack like lightning. Glitter burst premature. Chaos. Mirror surface boiled, not shattering, splitting. A hand, elongated, obsidian black, fingers like hooks, reached through. Gasps turned screams. Victor stumbled back. The hand grabbed air, then locked on a stage light tech, yanking him halfway in. His shriek cut short. Lena rushed on stage. Vornethel Ekris! Reverse chant. The rift pulsed. Crowd stampeded. Jake trampled in the surge. Hale fired shots. Bullets vanished into the void. The mirror exploded outward. The Hollow One poured forth, not a monster, but emptiness. A humanoid silhouette of writhing voids, eyes pits swirling with stolen faces. Sarah's terrified, Tommy's pleading, Elias's grinning. Vegas neon reflected wrong in it, bending light into hunger. It fed on panic. Front row patrons dissolved into wisps, their awe from past shows now currency. Victor faced it. I paid 1,000 times. Encore, it hissed, voice a chorus of the vanished. Audience demands more. It lunged. Lena threw the grimoire. pages ignited midair, symbols burning blue. Victor grabbed a prop sword, blunt for axe, thrust into the core void. It howled, fissures cracking its form, but it countered. Tendrils pierced his chest, siphoning. Visions flooded him. His father's crushed body, desert-packed flames, infinite mirrors reflecting deaths. Lena chanted louder, blood from a cut palm fueling words. Hale, alive, emptied his clip. Voids absorbed, but slowed it. The Hollow One dragged Victor toward the rift. Join the show eternal. Final desperation. Victor whispered the original incantation into the void. Feedback loop. Pact inverted. The entity convulsed, imploding. Sarah's face flickered free, mouthing run, before winking out. Rift sealed with a thunderclap. Silence. Dawn broke over the strip. Theater a ruin. 47 missing. Chalk outlines everywhere. Victor, catatonic, committed to Nellis AFB Psych Ward. Official story, gas leak hallucination. Lena vanished. Some say she took the grimoire to the Mojave, hunting remnants. Detective Hale retired early, muttering about mirrors. The Mirage rebuilt, but no magic shows till 1990. Whispers persist. On Halloween, stagehands hear applause from empty auditoriums. And in the desert, near Elias's shack coordinates, leaked by a crew leak, seismic sensors pick up echoes. Victor Kane's last words recorded in ward notes. It wasn't a trick. The audience, they were the real magic. Story 2. In the quiet suburbs of Reno, Nevada, where the Sierra Nevada mountains loomed like silent guardians over the Truckee River, Emily Harper lived a life as predictable as the casino lights flickering downtown. At 32, she worked as a graphic designer for a local ad agency, spending her days crafting billboards for slot machines and her nights scrolling through true crime podcasts. Horror had always been her escape, stories of ghosts and serial killers that made her heart race without ever touching her real world. One crisp October evening in 2024, an envelope slipped under her apartment door. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a glossy ticket to The Enigma Show at the old Silver Legacy Theater, a rundown venue on Virginia Street that hadn't hosted a performance in years. The ticket read, "Witness the impossible. One night only. Admit one. Emily Harper." Her name was handwritten in elegant cursive. Curious, she texted her best friend, Mark Thompson, a bartender at a nearby pub. "You send this? Some magic show invite?" "Nope," he replied. "But sounds fun. Want company?" They decided to go. The theater was a relic from Reno's heyday, its Art Deco facade peeling under the desert sun. As they entered, the lobby smelled of mothballs and faint cigar smoke. A handful of locals milled about, maybe 50 people total. No ushers, just a dimly lit stage with a single spotlight on a velvet curtain. The magician, introduced by a crackling PA system as Elias Crow, emerged like a shadow. Tall, gaunt, with piercing blue eyes and a salt and pepper beard, he wore a tailored black suit that seemed to absorb the light. "Ladies and gentlemen," he intoned, his voice smooth as aged whiskey, "tonight, we blur the line between illusion and reality." Emily leaned forward, intrigued. Mark whispered, "This guy's got that creepy vibe, like David Copperfield meets Hannibal Lecter." The show began with card tricks and levitations. Standard fare, but executed with unnerving precision. Then came the vanishings. A volunteer disappeared in a puff of smoke, reappearing in the balcony. The crowd gasped. Emily felt a chill. It felt too real. As the intermission hit, she noticed something odd. The theater's exits were chained shut. "Fire code violation?" she muttered to Mark. He shrugged. Probably part of the act. But deep down, Emily wondered if they just stepped into something more than a show. Elias Crow wasn't always a performer. Born in 1985 in a dusty trailer park outside Carson City, Nevada, he grew up under the thumb of his father, a failed prospector named Harlan Crow. Harlan claimed descent from old mining families who'd struck gold in the Comstock lode, but his real fortune was in tall tales and cheap tricks. He'd dazzle Elias with sleight of hand to distract from the beatings. By age 15, Elias had run away to Las Vegas, apprenticing under street magicians on the Strip. But he craved more, the real magic whispered in forbidden books. In the back rooms of occult shops on Fremont Street, he learned about ancient rituals from dusty tomes on Aleister Crowley and the Hermetic Order. Illusion is the gateway to truth, one mentor told him. In 2010, Elias hit the big time with a residency at the MGM Grand. His signature act, The Eternal Vanish, where audience members disappeared forever in his narratives only to return changed. Critics raved, but rumors swirled. A woman from his show in 2012, Sarah Klein from Henderson, vanished for real. Police found her car abandoned near Lake Mead, but no body. Elias was questioned but cleared. Alibi airtight. He faded from the spotlight after that, touring small towns. Whispers followed. People who attended his shows reported nightmares, seeing shadows that weren't there. One blogger in Salt Lake City claimed Elias used hypnosis to plant demons in minds. Back in Reno, as the second act began, Emily couldn't shake the unease. Elias called for volunteers. Mark's hand shot up. "Come on, Em, live a little." Against her better judgment, she joined him on stage. The stage lights burned hot, like interrogation lamps. Elias smiled, his teeth too white. "Emily and Mark, welcome to the heart of the enigma." He led them to a large wooden box, carved with intricate symbols, runes that looked vaguely Nordic but twisted. "This is the Vanishing cabinet," he explained, crafted from sequoia wood felled in the Tahoe National Forest during a lunar eclipse. "Step inside, and you'll glimpse the other side." Mark chuckled nervously. "Other side of what? The curtain?" Elias's eyes locked on Emily. "Reality." They entered the box. It was cramped, smelling of pine and something metallic. Blood? The door shut with a click. Darkness enveloped them. Emily's pulse raced. "This is stupid," she whispered. Then a whisper echoed, not Mark's. "Join us." The box spun, or so it felt. Lights flashed through slits. When the door opened, the audience applauded. But Mark was gone. "Where is he?" Emily demanded, stepping out. Elias bowed. "Patience. The vanish is but the prelude." The crowd laughed, thinking it a trick. Emily scanned the seats. No Mark. She returned to her chair, heart pounding. Minutes ticked by. Elias performed more illusions. Sawing a woman in half, she screamed too realistically, pulling endless scarves from a hat that morphed into serpents. Intermission again? No, the show pressed on. Emily's phone buzzed, a text from Mark's number. "Help, it's real." She bolted to the lobby, but the doors were still chained. Panic rising, she confronted Elias during a break. "Where's my friend?" He leaned close, breath like cold wind. "He's where all the vanished go, waiting." Emily's mind reeled. She remembered a podcast episode about unsolved disappearances in Nevada. One case. In 1998, a magic troupe in Elko vanished mid-performance. The leader, a man named Victor Hale, was Elias's uncle, Harlan's brother. Victor had experimented with portal magic, blending hypnosis with hallucinogens. The show ended in chaos. Audience members reported seeing rifts in the air. 5 people never returned. Elias had been there, a boy of 13, assisting backstage. Official report, mass hysteria from faulty pyrotechnics. But locals knew better. The theater burned down days later, erasing evidence. As the show resumed, Elias called Emily back. "Your friend awaits in the finale, but first, the backstory." He projected grainy photos on a screen. Old mining towns, abandoned shafts in Virginia City. In 1869, miners in the Comstock lode dug too deep. They unearthed not silver, but shadows, entities from beyond. My ancestors sealed them with rituals, but the veil thins in places like this theater, built over an old shaft. The crowd murmured, enthralled. Emily felt sick. Was this part of the act? Then a volunteer, a burly man named Tom Reynolds from Sparks, stepped into the cabinet. Screams echoed from inside. When it opened, Tom was there, but his eyes were vacant, skin pale. He whispered to Elias, "They're hungry." Tom collapsed, convulsing. Paramedics? No one moved. The audience shifted uneasily, but applause followed. "Great effects," someone yelled. Emily texted Mark again. "Where are you?" Reply, "Under the stage. Run!" Desperation fueled her. During a brief blackout, part of the show, Emily slipped backstage. The corridors were labyrinthine, walls lined with mirrors that distorted her reflection into monstrous shapes. She heard faint moans like wind through caves. Down a spiral staircase, she found a door marked Props. Inside, crates of illusions, but one caught her eye, a journal. Elias's handwriting. The entities demand vessels. Each show, I feed them one. Sarah was the first willing. The veil strengthens with each soul. Horror gripped her. This wasn't magic. It was sacrifice. A noise, footsteps. She hid behind a curtain as Elias entered, dragging a limp body. Mark? No, another volunteer. Soon, Elias murmured. The finale will seal it. Emily fled deeper into the basement. The air grew cold, damp. Pipes dripped, echoing like heartbeats. She stumbled into an old mining tunnel, forgotten under the theater. Graffiti from the 1800s. Beware the deep ones. There in the dim light of her phone, she saw them. Figures chained to walls, emaciated, eyes glowing faintly. One looked up. Sarah Klein? Help us, it rasped. He's opened the rift. Back on stage, the finale loomed. Elias announced, "The Grand Vanish, where we all cross over." The cabinet hummed, vibrations shaking the floor. Emily burst from backstage. "Stop! It's real! He's killing people!" Laughter at first, then silence as the lights dimmed. Shadows writhed on the walls, forming shapes, clawed hands, twisted faces. Mark reappeared, stumbling from the cabinet. But not Mark. His skin sagged, eyes black voids. "Emily," he croaked, voice layered with others. "Join us!" The audience panicked, rushing the exits, still chained. Screams filled the air. Elias chanted in an unknown tongue, the runes on the cabinet glowing. Emily grabbed a stage prop, a sword from the sawing act, and lunged at Elias. "What are you?" He dodged, laughing. "The Keeper. My family bound them. Now I free them for power." A rift tore open in the air, a swirling vortex of darkness, sucking in light. Hands emerged, pulling victims in. Tom Reynolds vanished first, then others. Emily fought, slashing at the shadows. Mark's possessed form grabbed her. "It's peaceful inside," he whispered. She stabbed him. No, in the chest. It dissolved into smoke. Flashback, Elias's childhood. Harlan wasn't just abusive, he was possessed. During a storm in 1995, Harlan entered an old mine shaft near their trailer. Emerging changed. "The deep ones speak," he'd rave, teaching Elias rituals to summon them. Victor Hale's show in '98 was the test. Elias assisted, watching as the rift claimed his uncle and others. Instead of fear, he felt awe. Power. By 2012 in Vegas, he perfected it. Sarah Klein volunteered, but she knew. His lover initiated into the cult. She sacrificed herself to widen the rift. Now in Reno, the theater sat atop the original shaft. The show was the key. Audience belief thinned the veil. Emily, trapped in the chaos, realized the entities fed on fear. Suspense built their hunger. Emily ran through the tunnels, Elias pursuing. "You can't escape the enigma." Her phone died. No signal anyway. Torchlight from old miners' lamps guided her. She found a chamber. Altars with bones. Symbols matching the cabinet. Elias cornered her. "Your backstory ends here." She smashed a lantern, igniting oil. Flames roared, illuminating horrors. Tentacled forms slithering from cracks. Elias screamed as one enveloped him. "No! I'm the master!" The rift pulsed, pulling everything in. Emily clawed her way out, emerging in an alley behind the theater. Sirens wailed. Someone must have called 911. The building shuddered, then imploded, dust clouding the night sky. Days later, investigations found no bodies, just empty seats and chained doors. Elias Crow vanished. Emily moved to Sacramento, but nightmares persisted. Shadows and mirrors, whispers. "Join us." One night, a ticket arrived. The enigma returns. She burned it, but the cycle continued. Months passed. Emily tried therapy, dismissing it as trauma. But in quiet moments, she felt the pull. Researching, she uncovered more. Similar shows in Boise, Idaho. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Always small towns, always vanishings. The entities weren't bound. They spread. In her new apartment, a mirror cracked. From the shards, Elias's face. The show must go on. She smashed it, but the whispers grew. Emily returned to Reno, drawn back. The theater rubble hid the shaft. She descended, armed with salt and iron, old wards from online forums. Deep below, the rift hummed. Figures waited. Mark, Sarah, Elias. Hosts now. End it, she commanded, chanting a reversal spell pieced from Elias's journal. The rift shrieked, collapsing. Souls screamed release. But as it sealed, a tendril latched her ankle. One more vessel. She cut it free, escaping as the tunnel caved. Above ground, dawn broke. Free? Years later, Emily Harper became a podcaster, warning of real magic. Listeners scoffed, but some knew. In quiet Reno nights, whispers echo from the ground. The deep ones wait, and somewhere, a new magician rises. Story 3. In the humid underbelly of New Orleans' French Quarter, where Bourbon Street's neon haze clashes with the shadows of crumbling Creole townhouses, the Crescent Moon Theater stood like a forgotten relic. Built in 1892 by an eccentric magician named Etienne Crow, it had hosted vaudeville acts, jazz legends, and shadowy seances during the city's wilder days. Crow himself vanished mid-performance one foggy All Saints' Eve in 1905. Poof, gone in a puff of smoke during his signature Vanishing act. His top hat and cane were found center stage, but no trace of the man. Locals whispered he'd struck a deal with the LOA, the voodoo spirits that pulsed through Louisiana's veins. The theater shuttered for decades until 2023, when developer Harlan Beaumont reopened it as a haunted magic experience to cash in on ghost tours. Harlan, a slick real estate shark from Baton Rouge, didn't believe the legends. It's all smoke and mirrors, he'd boast over hurricanes at Pat O'Brien's bar. He hired Marcus Hale, a washed-up illusionist from Las Vegas, to headline the show. Marcus, 42, chain-smoking camels and nursing a divorce from his stage assistant ex, needed the gig. His act was sharp, levitating orbs, razor blade escapes, but nothing like Crow's old tricks, archived in yellowed playbills still tacked to the theater's lobby walls. Opening night was October 31st, 2024, Halloween, peak tourist season. The 150-seat auditorium buzzed with millennials in vampire capes, families from Ohio, and a few grizzled locals nursing doubts. Tickets were $75 a pop, sold out weeks in advance. Backstage, Marcus adjusted his black tails, the air thick with mothballs and faint jasmine incense from the theater's hidden voodoo altar. Harlan's atmospheric touch. His assistant, Lena Voss, 28, a sharp-tongued two-lane dropout with a buzz cut and tattooed sleeves, handed him the prop cane. Crow's original, polished but cursed, per the rumors. "Lena, you smell that?" Marcus muttered, nose wrinkling. "A metallic tang, like old blood mixed with ozone. It's the HVAC, boss. Showtime." She smirked, but her eyes darted to the trapdoor under the stage. During rehearsals, she'd sworn she heard scratching from below, like nails on wood. The lights dimmed. Harlan's voice boomed. "Ladies and gents, welcome to Crow's Curse, where magic meets the macabre." Spotlights hit Marcus as he strode out, cane twirling. The crowd whooped. First trick, card forces, mind reading a spectator's ace of spades. Easy. Then the levitation. Lena suspended in midair, twisting like a marionette. Gasps rippled through the room. But midway, Marcus paused. The air grew colder, unnatural for New Orleans' sticky October. He launched into the backstory bit Harlan scripted. Etienne Crow stood right here, folks, when he vanished. Legend says he didn't escape. He was taken. He rapped the cane on the stage. Thump, thump. A low echo answered from below like a heartbeat. The audience tittered nervously. Marcus grinned. "For my finale, the Vanishing act, who wants to join me?" Hands shot up. He picked Riley Thompson, a bubbly 22-year-old college kid from Shreveport, visiting with her boyfriend Jax. Blonde ponytail, LSU hoodie, perfect volunteer. Riley bounded on stage, giggling as Marcus blindfolded her with a silk scarf etched in faded Creole symbols. "Step into the cabinet," he said, guiding her into the tall mirrored box, a replica of Crow's. Lena cranked the hidden gears. Marcus chanted the patter. "One vanish for the living, one for the dead." The doors slammed shut. He waved the cane. Smoke billowed, dry ice timed perfectly. "Abracadabra!" He flung the doors open, empty. Cheers exploded. Riley scampered out the back way, as rehearsed, waving from the wings, or so he thought. The applause died. Marcus bowed, but Lena's face on stage was ashen. "Where's the girl?" she hissed under her breath. Marcus froze. Riley hadn't emerged. Jack stood in the front row, frowning. "Babe? Riley?" the crowd murmured. Harlan rushed on stage, mic in hand. "Technical glitch, folks. Enjoy the bar tab." But Marcus yanked off Riley's blindfold prop from the cabinet floor. It was damp, sweaty, warm. Real. Backstage panic. Lena checked the escape hatch. Locked from inside. Jack stormed up. "This isn't funny. Where's my girlfriend?" Harlan shoved him toward security. Two burly ex-cops from the NOPD. Marcus pried the trap door. Darkness yawned below, stairs descending to the theater's flooded basement, a warren of brick tunnels snaking under the quarter, remnants of old smugglers' paths. "Riley!" Marcus yelled. His voice echoed weirdly, swallowed. A faint giggle bubbled up, like Riley's but distorted, underwater. They called 911. NOPD arrived fast. Detective Simone Landry, a no-nonsense Creole woman who'd grown up blocks away. "Crow's old haunt," she muttered, shining her mag light down the stairs. Water lapped at the bottom, black and oily, smelling of decay and copper pennies. "Kid, you see anything?" Marcus shook his head, but his skin crawled. The cane in his hand vibrated subtly, like a phone on silent. Searches dragged into the night. Divers from the Orleans Parish Levee District suited up, plunging into the murk. Nothing. By dawn, Riley was big news. WWL-TV helicopters buzzed overhead, headlines screaming, "Halloween horror, tourist vanishes in magic trick." Marcus couldn't sleep. He holed up in his Airbnb on Domain Street, replaying footage from the show cam. There, frame 247. As the cabinet doors opened, a flicker in the mirror, not smoke. A shadow, tall and top-hatted, with hollow eyes. Crow's eyes. Lena called at 2 a.m. "Boss, the altar, incense is lit, and..." Carvings appeared on the cabinet. Creole script. Says he returns through the willing. They met at the theater, Harlan pacing like a caged alligator. Detective Landry was there too, unofficial now. Her grandmother had known Crow's widow. "This place reeks of gris-gris," she said, fingering a chicken bone under the stage. Crow wasn't just a magician. He was a Bokor, dark priest. Backstory goes, he sacrificed assistants to boost his powers. That vanishing? He trapped souls in the tunnels, feeding off fear. Marcus laughed it off, but his hands shook. They descended together, flashlights cutting the gloom. The basement flooded knee-deep, walls slick with moss and what looked like finger smears. Graffiti from Prohibition era mixed with fresh scratches. "Help, Riley," a splash ahead. They froze. Footsteps, wet slaps, circling. Jax's voice echoed from nowhere. "You did this! She's gone because of you!" Jax was upstairs, Landry confirmed via radio. "Imposter?" The circle tightened. Marcus swung the cane like a bat. It hummed, glowing faintly blue. Then the whisper, right in his ear. "Join us!" Cold breath on his neck. He spun. Nothing. But Lena screamed. Her flashlight beam caught it. Riley's LSU hoodie, floating empty, ponytail wig slithering across the water like a snake. They bolted, slamming the trapdoor. Harlan bolted the locks. "We're closing this shithole. But the show must go on, right?" Tourists clamored for refunds and encores. 2 nights later, desperate, Marcus reopened. Half-capacity, morbid curiosity packed the house. Same act. He skipped the cabinet, did ropes and rings. Safe. Until the finale. No volunteer. Just him, center stage, cane raised. For ATN, smoke erupted unbidden. The spotlight flickered. In the mirror ball above, reflections warped. Not the audience, but pale faces, mouths agape. Screams, not from seats, from everywhere. Lena yanked his arm. Trap doors open! They ran backstage. The basement stairs yawned, but now dry, lined with candles. Flickering light revealed figures, translucent, in top hats and gowns. Etienne Crow at the front, grinning with too many teeth. Riley beside him, blindfold askew, eyes milky. The willing, she mouthed. Marcus tripped, cane flying into the dark. It clattered down, thump, thump, like a heartbeat. Hands grabbed him, cold, insistent. Lena fired her taser blindly. Sparks flew. A chorus of laughs bubbled up. Detective Landry burst in with SWAT, shotguns ready, but the stairs were empty again. Flooded. Quiet. Marcus surfaced days later in Turo Infirmary, babbling about tunnels to hell. Lena vanished, no trace. Harlan sold the theater to a church group, fled to Houston. Jax? He hung himself in his Kenner motel, note reading, saw her eyes in the mirror. Riley's body washed up in Bayou St. John weeks later, blindfold intact, smile carved ear to ear. Autopsy, drowned but lungs dry. Cause of death, unknown. Marcus never performed again. He tends bar now at a dive on Decatur Street, warning drunks, magic's real. Crow's waiting. He needs the willing to vanish so he can return. Last Halloween, the Crescent Moon Theater reopened under new management. Sold out. Lights dim. Who's volunteering tonight? Story 4, I never believed in magic until that night in Las Vegas. It was the summer of 2023, and I'd driven all the way from Phoenix, Arizona to see the Enigma's Veil, billed as the greatest illusion show on the Strip. My name is Alex Harper, a 32-year-old software engineer with a penchant for debunking the supernatural. I'd seen Chris Angel and David Copperfield growing up, but this new guy, Elias Thorne, was different. His shows sold out months in advance, and Whispers Online called him the real deal. Not just tricks, but something darker. I bought my ticket on a whim, thinking it'd be a fun escape from my monotonous life coding apps for startups. Little did I know, it would become the nightmare that still haunts my dreams. Las Vegas was buzzing as always when I arrived. The neon lights of the casinos flickered like distant stars against the desert night. Thorne's show was at the Mirage Theater, a renovated venue with a history of its own. Built in the 80s, it had hosted legends, but rumor had it the place was cursed after a fire in 1997 that killed a stagehand during a rehearsal. Officially, it was an accident, faulty wiring, but locals swore the ghost of the worker, a guy named Harold Jenkins, lingered, causing props to malfunction. I dismissed it as urban legend fodder, the kind of story that boosts ticket sales. I checked into my hotel room at the Bellagio, overlooking the fountains, and spent the afternoon wandering the Strip. By evening, I was in line at the Mirage, surrounded by excited tourists from all over. Families from Texas, couples from New York, even a group of magicians from Chicago hoping to steal secrets. The ticket was pricey, $150 for a mid-row seat, but reviews on TripAdvisor raved about Thorne's mind-bending acts. One reviewer wrote, "It's like he pulls your deepest fears right out of your head." I chuckled at that, attributing it to clever hypnosis. Inside the theater, the atmosphere was electric. Dim red lights cast eerie shadows on velvet curtains, and a faint scent of incense hung in the air, like something from an old carnival. The stage was set with antique props, a massive guillotine, a vanishing cabinet that looked straight out of Victorian England, and a crystal ball on a pedestal. Thorne's backstory was part of the hype. Born in rural Kansas in the 90s, Elias had a tragic childhood. His parents died in a car crash when he was 10, leaving him with his eccentric uncle, a traveling magician named Victor Thorne. Victor taught him the trade, but Elias vanished for years after Victor's mysterious death in 2015, found hanged in a motel room in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with no note. Elias resurfaced in 2020, debuting in small Vegas clubs before exploding into fame. His signature? Illusions that involved audience participation, making people question reality. As the lights dimmed, a hush fell over the crowd. A spotlight hit the stage, and there he was, Elias Thorne, tall and gaunt, with piercing blue eyes and a black tuxedo that seemed to absorb the light. His hair was slicked back, and a thin scar ran down his left cheek, a souvenir from a failed escape, he claimed. Ladies and gentlemen, he intoned in a voice like velvet over gravel, welcome to the veil between worlds. Tonight we pierce it, but remember, once seen, some things cannot be unseen. The show started innocently enough. Card tricks elevated to art, predicting not just a card, but a volunteer's childhood memory tied to it. A woman from Ohio gasped as Thorne revealed her late grandmother's name etched on the ace of hearts. I rolled my eyes, cold reading obviously. Then came the levitation. He called up a young man from Seattle named Mike, strapped him to a board, and with a wave of his hand, Mike floated 10 feet in the air. No wires, no magnets. I checked with my phone's flashlight app discreetly. The audience erupted in applause, but I felt a chill. Mike's face twisted in what looked like genuine terror before Thorne lowered him. Intermission hit, and I stepped out for a drink at the lobby bar. That's when I overheard two ushers whispering. "You hear about the last show?" one said, a burly guy from Nevada named Tom. "That girl from Denver, she vanished for real. Cops said she left town, but her family swears she never came home." The other usher, a woman named Lisa, shushed him. "Don't spread that crap. Thorne's clean. It's all hype." I filed it away as gossip, but it planted a seed of unease. Back in my seat, the second act ramped up the intensity. Thorne unveiled the shadow box, a glass enclosure where he summoned illusions from the audience's minds. He picked a volunteer, an elderly man from Boston named Harold. Wait, Harold? The name struck me, echoing the theater's ghost story. Coincidence, I thought. Thorne locked Harold in the box, dimmed the lights, and asked the crowd to think of their worst fears. Whispers filled the air, and suddenly shadows swirled inside the box. Harold screamed as tendrils of darkness wrapped around him, his face contorting in agony. The audience laughed nervously, thinking it was part of the act, but I saw blood trickle from his nose. Thorne snapped his fingers and it ended. Harold stumbled out, pale and shaking, muttering, "It was real. The fire." My heart raced. Was this hypnosis gone wrong? Or something more? Thorne smiled cryptically. The mind is a powerful thing. It can conjure demons from nothing, or from everything. The next act involved a mirror maze on stage. Thorne invited 5 volunteers, including me. I hesitated but raised my hand. Curiosity won. Up there, under the hot lights, I felt exposed. The others were diverse. Sarah from Los Angeles, a bubbly actress. Jamal from Atlanta, a skeptical engineer like me. Emily from Miami, a wide-eyed tourist. And twins, Liam and Lucas from Portland, Oregon. Thorne explained we'd enter the maze one by one, facing our reflected truths. He whispered something to each of us privately. To me, he said, "Alex, what if your code isn't just zeros and ones? What if it's alive?" I laughed it off and stepped in. The mirrors distorted everything. My face elongated, then shattered into fragments. Whispers echoed, my name, failures from my past, like the startup that tanked in 2021, costing me my savings. Then a figure appeared in the reflection. Not me, but a decayed version, skin peeling, eyes hollow. It reached out, and I swear its hand touched mine through the glass. Cold, real flesh. I bolted, crashing into mirrors until I emerged, sweating. The audience clapped, but Sarah came out next, hysterical, screaming about seeing her dead sister. Back in my seat, doubt crept in. This wasn't normal magic. I glanced around. Some people looked thrilled, others uneasy. Thorne announced the finale, the eternal escape. He'd be chained, submerged in a water tank, escaping death itself. But first, a backstory reveal. He projected old photos on a screen. His uncle Victor performing in dusty Kansas fairs. Then a grainy video, Victor's last act, where he summoned spirits and collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Magic has a price, Thorne said. Tonight, I pay it. The tank filled with water, chains locked by volunteers. Thorne dove in, struggling theatrically. Minutes ticked by. 2, 3, 4. The audience held its breath. At 5, he went still, floating lifelessly. Panic rippled through the crowd. Assistants rushed on stage, smashing the glass. Water flooded out, but Thorne was gone. Vanished. The theater plunged into darkness. Screams erupted. In the blackout, I felt hands grab my arms. Cold, bony fingers. Lights flickered back, revealing chaos. People clawing at exits, some frozen in place, eyes glazed. On stage, the guillotine blade dropped randomly, nearly decapitating an assistant. I pushed toward the aisle, but the whispers returned, louder. "Alex, join us." I made it to the lobby, heart pounding. Police sirens wailed outside. News reports later called it a mass hallucination from a gas leak. But I knew better. Thorne reappeared days later, claiming it was all planned. But the volunteers? Sarah was found wandering the desert, muttering about mirrors. Jamal quit his job, convinced machines were sentient. Emily checked into a psych ward in Florida. The twins, they disappeared entirely, their Portland home empty. I drove back to Phoenix that night, glancing in the rearview mirror, half expecting that decayed face. Months passed, but the scar on my hand from the mirror touch never healed. It pulses sometimes like a reminder. Then last week, a package arrived at my door. No sender. Inside, a ticket to Thorne's next show in New York City. On the back, scrawled in what looked like blood. "The veil awaits your return." I burned it, but the whispers haven't stopped. They're in my code now, lines twisting on their own. Magic isn't real, I tell myself. But deep down, I know the truth. Some illusions bleed into reality, and once you pierce the veil, it never closes. The show must go on. But for whom? I tried to move on, burying myself in work. My apartment in Phoenix overlooked Camelback Mountain, a stark reminder of the desert's isolation. Nights were the worst. Insomnia hit hard, and when I did sleep, dreams replayed the maze, the decayed me whispering secrets. "Elias isn't human," it said. "He's the vessel." Curiosity, or madness, drove me to dig deeper. Using my tech skills, I scoured online forums. On Reddit's r/magic conspiracies, users shared stories. One from a former assistant in Thorne's crew. "He collects souls through the axe. The shadow box isn't illusion, it's a portal." Another from a Kansas local. "Victor's death wasn't suicide. Elias sacrificed him for power. Old family curse. Thorns descended from Salem witches who fled to the Midwest." Salem, that tract. Historical records I pulled from Ancestry.com showed a Thorne in 1692, accused of sorcery but escaped execution. Victor's lineage tied back there. Elias must have inherited more than tricks. I contacted the poster anonymously. Her name was Clara, Victor's ex-girlfriend from Albuquerque. Over encrypted email, she spilled, "Victor found an ancient grimoire in a Kansas attic. Spells for real magic, but they required blood. Elias was obsessed, practiced on animals first. The night Victor died, Elias performed a ritual. I saw the symbols carved in the motel floor." Proof? She sent photos, fuzzy but damning. Pentagrams, candles, a noose. "He hangs between worlds," she wrote. "The shows feed him energy from the audience's fear." I should have stopped, but the ticket burned in my mind. No, I literally burned it. But another arrived 2 days later, identical. Postmarked from Vegas, no return address. Paranoia set in. My code at work glitched. Apps crashing with error messages like "Veal open." Colleagues joked I was overworked, but I saw patterns. Binary translating to "join Thorne." One night, alone in my office, the lights flickered. Shadows danced on the walls, forming faces. Heralds? Victors? I fled to a bar in Scottsdale, downing whiskey until dawn. The breaking point came when I got a call from an unknown number. A voice, Thorne's. "Alex, the maze showed you truth. Your life is code. Predictable, empty, I offer more." "How did you get this number?" I demanded. Laughter. "Magic." I hung up, smashed my phone. Bought a burner, researched protections, salt circles, iron amulets. Ridiculous, but desperation breeds belief. Weeks later, news broke. Thorne's New York show at Madison Square Garden was a hit, but 3 audience members vanished mid-act. NYPD dismissed it as walkouts, but families protested. Online videos surfaced. Grainy phone footage of shadows swallowing people. I couldn't ignore it. I booked a flight to NYC, telling myself I'd expose him. Landed at JFK, checked into a cheap hotel in Brooklyn. The city pulsed with energy, but I felt watched. Show night, garden packed, 20,000 strong. I sat in the back, hood up. Thorne appeared, same scar, same eyes. Tonight, we transcend. Acts mirrored Vegas but amplified. Levitation with multiple people. Shadowbox devouring fears en masse. Then, the mirror maze. Expanded to arena size. Volunteers wandering projected illusions. He called names, including mine. How? I froze as spotlights hit me. Alex Harper, from Phoenix. Come face your reflection again. The crowd cheered. I bolted for the exit, but doors locked. Security? No. Ushers with vacant eyes blocked paths. Pushed into the fray, I ended up on stage. Mirrors surrounded me, reflections multiplying. The decayed me returned. Closer. Elias is the key, it hissed. Born in blood, he opens doors to the void. Flashbacks. Thorne's birth records. I'd hack them. Born during a storm in Kansas, mother died in childbirth. Father in the crash years later. But deeper, hospital notes mentioned anomalies. Baby with no heartbeat for minutes, then revived. In the maze, illusions solidified. Hands grabbed, pulling me through glass. I fought, shattering a pane. Blood on my fists. Emerged to chaos. Audience panicking, shadows leaping from the box. Thorne laughed maniacally. The veil tears. Blackout, screams. I ran blind, colliding with bodies. Lights up, Thorne gone, stage empty. People milled confused, some catatonic. Outside, cop cars swarmed. Official story. Technical malfunction, no injuries. But I knew. Dozens missing. Absorbed. Back in Phoenix, I barricaded my door. Whispers evolved to voices. Return. I researched rituals to close portals. Found an old book in a Tempe occult shop. Warding the Veil. Performed it at midnight. Candles. Chants. Silence followed. Peace? For a month. Then a knock. Opened to find Thorne smiling. You can't escape code, Alex. It's eternal. He lunged, but I stabbed with an iron poker. He dissolved into shadow, laughing. Was it real? Hallucination? I don't know, but the scar throbs and mirrors avoid my gaze. If you get a ticket, burn it. Don't pierce the veil. The shadows wait. But wait, that's not the end. I thought it was over, but last night, coding late, my screen flickered. Lines rewrote themselves. Elias lives. I unplugged, but the laptop stayed on. Battery? No, powered by something else. A face appeared. Thorne's. The show continues, Alex. Your turn to perform. I smashed it, shards cutting deep. Blood dripped, forming symbols. Now as I write this, hiding in a motel in Tucson, I hear applause. Distant, growing. The veil is thin here. If you read this, beware magic shows. They're not illusions. They're invitations. I feel cold hands on my shoulders. The end? No. It's pulling me in. Help. Story 5. In the dim glow of a single spotlight, Elias Crow stepped onto the stage of the Orpheum Theater in Salem, Massachusetts, his silk cape swirling like liquid shadow. The audience of 500 held its breath. Tourists, locals, skeptics, all drawn to his sold-out show billed as the impossible unveiled. Elias was no ordinary magician. He was the best, the one who'd made headlines from Las Vegas to New York with tricks that defied physics. Tonight, October 31st, Halloween and witch trial haunted Salem, he promised his grandest illusion yet, a veil torn between worlds. Elias smiled, his sharp features lit like a Renaissance painting gone wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, he purred, voice smooth as aged bourbon, magic isn't smoke and mirrors. It's memory. It's what lingers when the lights go out. He snapped his fingers, and the theater plunged into darkness. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Then a spotlight bloomed on an empty glass cabinet center stage. For my finale, I'll need a volunteer. You, sir, in the third row. He pointed at Harlan Graves, a burly contractor from Boston who'd come with his wife, Mia, on a whim. Harlan hesitated, but Mia nudged him. Go on, it'll be fun. The crowd cheered as stagehands ushered Harlan up. Elias locked eyes with him. Ever wonder what happens to the souls of the forgotten? Step inside. Harlan laughed nervously, climbing into the cabinet. Elias sealed it with a flourish, chains rattling like bones. Now watch closely. The cabinet rotated slowly. Elias chanted in a low murmur. Latin? Old English? And flames erupted harmlessly around the base. The audience leaned forward. Then silence. The cabinet stopped. Elias unlocked it. Empty. Applause thundered. Where's Harlan? Mia whispered, heart pounding. Elias bowed. He's elsewhere. He'll return when the veil thins. But Harlan didn't return. The show ended amid confusion, ushers assuring Mia it was part of the act. Police were called. No trace. Elias vanished into the night, leaving Salem buzzing with rumors. That was 3 weeks ago. Now Mia Graves sat in her Beacon Hill brownstone, staring at her phone. Elias Crow's tour dates popped up. Next stop, New Orleans. She booked a flight. Harlan wasn't dead. She felt it. And she'd make Elias bring him back. Mia arrived in New Orleans on a humid November evening, the air thick with jazz and jasmine masking the rot of the bayou. She checked into a Creole guest house on Bourbon Street, walls papered in faded voodoo motifs. Her first lead came from a street performer near Jackson Square. Crow? Yeah, he's playing the Saenger Theater tomorrow. But girl, steer clear. They say his shows take pieces of you. That night, Mia scoured online forums. Elias Crow, 42, born in Salem to unknown parents. Rose to fame in 2015 with a Vegas residency where a volunteer disappeared for 24 hours, only to reappear unharmed. Critics called it genius, but whispers lingered. The volunteer quit showbiz, claimed nightmares of hands pulling him under. Mia dug deeper. A 1920s newspaper scan from the Salem Observer. Local illusionist Elias Crow Sr. dies in freak accident during seance show. Father? Same name. The article described a stage fire that killed 3 audience members, their bodies found twisted as if clawed from inside. Chills crawled up Mia's spine. Coincidence? She printed it, stuffing it into her bag. At dawn, she visited a occult shop on Royal Street. Madame Laveau's descendant, a wiry woman named Zelda, eyed the clipping. Crow blood runs deep here. His granddaddy fled New Orleans after the Great Flood of 27, dabbled in hoodoo, tried raising the dead. Folks said he opened a door that ain't closed proper. Zelda sold her a Grigri bag. Salt, bones, whisper and root. Wear it, keeps the veil thick. The Saenger Theater glittered like a jazz-age fever dream, chandeliers dripping crystal over velvet seats. Mia bought a ticket, slipping into the balcony shadows, Grigri clutched in her fist. Elias took the stage to roaring applause, same cape, same smile. Welcome to the Crescent City where magic breathes. His opener, levitating a violinist who played Phantom of the Opera, mid-air, flawless. Then card tricks with audience plants. Mia scanned for Harlan. No sign. For the impossible, Elias announced, a journey beyond. Spotlights hit a massive ornate mirror framed in wrought iron, etched with Creole symbols. This is Le Miroir des Âmes, brought from Paris via the slave ships. It reflects not your face, but your regrets. He paced, eyes gleaming. Volunteer? His gaze locked on Mia. Her stomach dropped. The crowd pushed her forward. She stumbled onto the stage. Name? Elias asked, too close. Breath like cold mint. Mia Graves. Recognition flickered. Ah, the wife. Step to the mirror. She did, heart hammering. The glass showed her reflection, then rippled. Harlan's face swam behind hers, mouth open in a silent scream. Gasps from the audience. See? Elias whispered. He's waiting, but to bring him back, you must cross. He handed her a silver coin stamped with a crow. Flip it. Heads, he returns. Tails, you join him. Mia's hands shook. The crowd chanted, "Flip it!" She tossed. "Tails!" The mirror shattered inward, shards exploding like gunfire. Darkness swallowed the stage. When lights flared, Mia stood alone. Elias was gone. Backstage chaos. No Harlan, no Crow. But in her pocket, the coin burned hot. Mia holed up in her guest house, feverish. Dreams plagued her. Harlan clawing at a misty void. Voices chanting, "Crow! Crow!" She called Zelda. "Tell me everything." Over chicory coffee at Café du Monde, Zelda spilled the tale. Elias Crow Sr. wasn't from Salem originally. Born 1895 in Tremé, New Orleans, a mixed-blood grifter who married a voodoo priestess. In 1927, post-flood devastation, desperate families paid him to contact the drowned. His shows packed halls. One night at the old Lyric Theater site, now the Sanger, he attempted the Veil Tear, a ritual mirror summoning spirits via blood pricked from volunteers. Something answered. Not ancestors. Things from the bayou depths, hungry shades called les ombres errantes, wandering shadows that fed on the living's essence. The fire killed Senior, his wife, and 3 patrons. But rumors said Senior survived, scarred, fleeing north to Salem. He birthed Elias Jr. in 1930, who carried the bloodline's curse, the ability to thin the veil, but each tear cost a soul to balance. Jr. died in that 1920s accident, passing the gift to grandson Elias. "Boys' shows ain't tricks," Zelda warned. "They real. He feeds them to keep the shadows at bay." "Your Harlan? First in the chain. Needs 3 to seal." Mia flashed the coin. Zelda recoiled. "Le jeton de corbeau. Curse token. Flips always tails for the marked." Mia tracked Elias to his next gig, the Fox Theater in Atlanta. Driving through the night, fog clung to I-85 like fingers. Billboards blurred. Elias Crow, master of the unseen, one night only. She arrived disheveled, crashing a sound check. Backstage, a roadie slipped. "Boss is in the green room, but he don't like questions." Elias lounged amid props, sipping absinthe. Mrs. Graves, persistent. "Where's Harlan?" He chuckled. "Safe. For now. Want the truth? My bloodline's debt." 1927, Grandpere opened the door. Shadows escaped. "I recapture them, one volunteer at a time. Harlan's the bait for the 3rd. "Liar!" Mia lunged, gree out. Elias snatched it, sniffing. "Whisper and root? Cute." The room spun. Visions hit. Young Elias in Salem, 1990s. Apprenticed to a carnival. First show, kid volunteer vanishes. Elias finds him days later, babbling of cold hands. Guilt twisted him. Now he continued to contain the breach. "Join me tonight. Be the anchor. Save him." Refusal burned in Mia. She fled as security swarmed. The Fox Theater's auditorium pulsed with 3,000 souls. Art Deco opulence hiding dread. Elias's show built to frenzy. Disappearing elephants, mind-reading mares. Finale. A massive veil of gossamer silk suspended over the stage, lit by strobing ghosts. "Tonight, we mend what's torn," volunteer call. Elias pointed to Mia in the crowd. Ushers dragged her up amid cheers. Chained to a post behind the veil, Mia struggled. Elias addressed the throng. "Behold the ritual of return." He pricked his palm, blood dripping onto the silk. It ignited ethereal blue. Harlan's voice echoed, faint, pleading, "Mia, run." The veil billowed, shadows writhing within. Faces pressed against the fabric, twisted, eyeless, mouthing names. Suspense choked the air. Elias chanted, coin flipping in his hand. Tails again. The veil tore. Harlan stumbled through, pale, alive. Cheers erupted, but shadows lunged, coiling around Mia. Cold seeped in, like drowning in ice. Elias whispered, "The debt demands 2." Harlan, eyes hollow, grabbed a prop knife. "Sorry," he rasped, voice not his own. He slashed. Mia's chain snapped. "No." He turned the blade on Elias. Chaos. Shadows howled, veil collapsing. Elias screamed as darkness swallowed him whole, coin clattering free. Lights blazed. Harlan blinked, free. Mia gasped, unbound. Audience applauded, thinking finale. But Mia saw Elias's cape on the floor, empty. Shadows retreated, whispering retreat. Weeks later, Mia and Harlan returned to Boston therapy. Nightmares faded. News hailed miracle escape at the Fox. Elias Crow, presumed fled abroad, tour canceled. But in Salem, the Orpheum booked a new act, Crow's Heir. Mia felt it, the veil thinner. One night, staring in her bathroom mirror, a ripple. Harlan's face behind hers, smiling wrong. She flipped a silver coin from her pocket. Tails. The whispers never stopped. Story 6. I never believed in magic until that night in Las Vegas. It was the summer of 2023, and I was there on a business trip, closing a deal for my tech startup in Silicon Valley. My name is Alex Thompson, a 35-year-old software engineer from San Francisco, skeptical to the core. I'd always dismissed illusions as clever tricks, smoke, mirrors, misdirection. But what happened at the Mirage Theater changed everything. It wasn't just a show, it was a descent into something ancient and malevolent, hidden behind the glitz of the strip. Let me back up. The story really starts with Elias Blackwood, the magician whose name was buzzing around Vegas that year. Blackwood wasn't your typical David Copperfield wannabe. He was reclusive, rarely gave interviews, and his shows were invite-only, whispered about in high-roller circles. I'd heard about him from my client, a casino mogul named Victor Hale, who insisted I attend as a thank you for sealing our partnership. Elias will blow your mind, Alex, Victor said over steak at the Bellagio. He's got tricks that feel real. I laughed it off, but Victor's eyes had this odd glint, like he knew something I didn't. Blackwood's backstory was the stuff of urban legends. Born in New Orleans in the 1980s, he grew up in the French Quarter, son of a voodoo priestess and a traveling carnival illusionist. His mother, Marie Blackwood, was infamous for her curses that supposedly ruined lives. Debts collected, rivals vanished. Elias ran away at 16 after her mysterious death in a house fire on Bourbon Street. He surfaced years later in Las Vegas, performing small gigs until he hit it big with an act called Shadows of the Forgotten. Critics raved about its authenticity, but there were rumors, audience members fainting, props that seemed to move on their own, and one story about a volunteer who never returned to his seat. I arrived at the Mirage early, ticket in hand, VIP, courtesy of Victor. The theater was opulent, red velvet seats and crystal chandeliers, but there was an undercurrent of unease. The air felt thick, like before a storm in the Nevada desert. I took my seat in the third row, center stage, next to a couple from Chicago, Mark and Lisa Reynolds. They were tourists, excited and chatty. "Heard this guy's the real deal," Mark said, sipping a cocktail. "Like actual black magic." Lisa rolled her eyes, but I noticed her clutching her purse a bit too tightly. The lights dimmed at 8 p.m. sharp. A hush fell over the crowd. No opening music, no fanfare. Just a single spotlight on an empty stage. Then from the shadows, Elias Blackwood emerged. He was tall, gaunt, with pale skin and eyes like polished obsidian. Dressed in a tailored black suit, he looked more like a funeral director than a performer. "Ladies and gentlemen," he intoned, his voice a silky drawl with a hint of Cajun accent. "Tonight we peer into the veil between worlds. But remember, some shadows don't like being seen." The first act was standard fare, a levitating assistant, card tricks that predicted personal details. He called up a woman from the audience, Sarah Jenkins from Austin, Texas. She handed him her wedding ring, and he made it vanish, only to reappear inside a sealed envelope in her purse. The crowd applauded, but I spotted the sleight of hand. Classic misdirection. Yet Sarah's face paled when she opened the envelope. Inside was not just her ring, but a faded photo of her as a child, one she lost years ago. "How?" she whispered, stumbling back to her seat. Blackwood smiled thinly. "The shadows remember." As the show progressed, the tricks grew darker. He performed a guillotine illusion, but instead of a fake blade, he used an antique from the 1800s, supposedly cursed from the Salem witch trials, shipped from a museum in Massachusetts. His assistant, a young woman named Clara Voss from Seattle, lay still as the blade dropped. The audience gasped, but she emerged unharmed. Or so it seemed. I swear I saw a thin red line on her neck, quickly covered by a scarf. Intermission came, and the theater buzzed with nervous energy. I stepped out to the lobby, grabbing a drink. That's when I overheard two ushers whispering. "Did you see the new prop? That mirror from the old Blackwood estate in Louisiana?" one said. "Elias says it's haunted. Volunteers who look into it, they change." The other shuddered. "Last show, that guy from Denver, Tom Harris, he stared too long. Haven't seen him since." I dismissed it as hype, but a chill ran down my spine. Back in my seat, the second half began with the centerpiece, the Mirror of Echoes. Blackwood unveiled a massive antique mirror, framed in twisted iron, claiming it was inherited from his mother. "This glass doesn't reflect the present," he said. "It shows what was and what might be." He asked for volunteers. Mark Reynolds jumped up, eager. "Pick me." Blackwood's eyes locked on him. "Very well, sir. Step forward." Mark approached, grinning. Blackwood positioned him before the mirror. "Gaze deeply. Tell us what you see." The theater fell silent. Mark stared, his smile fading. "I see my childhood home in Chicago. Wait, there's my dad. He died last year. He's waving." His voice trailed off, eyes widening. "No, that's not right. He's screaming. Blood. Oh God, the fire." Suddenly, Mark convulsed, collapsing to the stage. The audience murmured in alarm. Blackwood knelt, whispering something, and Mark sat up, dazed but alive. "Just a trick," Blackwood assured us. But Mark returned to his seat, whispering to Lisa. It felt real, like I was there. The suspense built. Blackwood's next illusion involved escaping a locked coffin buried under sand. A nod to Houdini, but with a twist. As stagehands piled the sand, he spoke of his mother's death. She burned alive, trapped in her own rituals. Fire claimed her, but her spirit lingers. The coffin was sealed, buried. Minutes ticked by. 5, 10. The crowd shifted uneasily. At 15, panic set in. "Is this part of the show?" someone whispered. Suddenly, the sand erupted. Blackwood rose, unscathed, but his suit was singed, skin blistered. "The shadows tried to keep me," he gasped. Applause erupted, but I noticed Clara, his assistant, looking terrified. She fled backstage mid-clap. The finale loomed. The summoning. Blackwood dimmed the lights further, chanting in what sounded like Creole. "We call forth the forgotten," he intoned. Props levitated without wires. Chairs, hats from the audience. My own phone buzzed in my pocket, screen flickering with static. Then the mirror glowed unnaturally. He selected another volunteer. Me. "You, sir, in the third row, the skeptic from San Francisco." How did he know? I hesitated, but the spotlight pinned me. Victor Hale, watching from a box seat, nodded encouragingly. Reluctantly, I climbed the stage. Up close, Blackwood smelled of incense and decay. "Stand before the mirror, Alex Thompson. See your truth." I stared into the glass. At first, my reflection. Then it warped. I saw my apartment in San Francisco, but empty, cobwebs everywhere. A figure appeared. My ex-girlfriend, Emily Carter from Boston, whom I'd left 2 years ago after a fight. She was pale, reaching out. "Alex, help me." Her voice echoed in my head. No speakers, no tricks. Then blood trickled from her eyes. "You left me to die." I recoiled. Emily had died in a car accident last year. Hit and run in Cambridge. Guilt I'd buried surged up. Was this real? Blackwood's hand on my shoulder snapped me back. "The shadows know your secrets." The audience clapped, but I staggered off stage, heart pounding. Lisa Reynolds leaned over. "You okay? You looked like you saw a ghost." The show ended with a bang, literal pyrotechnics that filled the theater with smoke. Blackwood bowed. "Remember, what you saw tonight stays with you." Lights up, people filed out, buzzing, but not everyone. Mark was gone from his seat. Lisa searched frantically. "He said he needed air during the finale." I lingered, uneasy. Victor approached. "Incredible, right? Elias has a gift." I pressed him. "What's the deal with the mirror?" Victor's smile faltered. "Old family heirloom, from Marie's voodoo days. Some say it traps souls." He laughed it off, but his eyes darted. Outside, the Vegas night was alive with neon, but I felt watched. I headed to my hotel, the Wynn, room 1423. Sleep evaded me. Around 2 a.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. Alex, a whisper, Emily's voice. Come back to the theater. I hung up, rationalizing it as a prank. But then, a knock at the door. No one there, just a note. The shadows remember. The next day, I couldn't shake it. I searched online. Nothing unusual about Blackwood's shows, just rave reviews. But digging deeper, I found a forum post from a user in Phoenix. Attended Blackwood in Vegas. My brother volunteered. Haven't heard from him since. Police say he left town. Similar stories dotted obscure sites. Missing persons linked to his performances. I confronted Victor at lunch in Caesar's Palace. What's really going on? He sighed. Elias isn't just a magician. His mother taught him real rituals. The mirror? It's a portal. Volunteers who see too much. They get pulled in. I scoffed. Bullshit. But Victor showed me a photo on his phone. Marie Blackwood, holding the mirror, eyes identical to Elias's. That evening I returned to the Mirage. The theater was dark, show over, but a side door was ajar. Inside, dim lights revealed the stage. The mirror stood covered. I approached, heart racing. Pulling the cloth, my reflection stared back. Then it shifted. Emily again, but joined by others. Mark Reynolds, Sarah Jenkins, faces twisted in agony. Join us, they chorused. Footsteps. Blackwood emerged from shadows. You shouldn't be here, Alex. His voice was calm, but eyes burned. The mirror shows truths we bury. Yours is guilt over Emily. You argued that night. She stormed out into that car. How did he know? I didn't cause it. He smiled sadly. The shadows don't judge. They collect. He chanted, and the mirror rippled like water. Hands emerged, pale, grasping. Emily's. I backed away, but the stage felt alive. Props moving. The guillotine blade hovered. Panic surged. I grabbed a stage light, smashing the mirror. Glass shattered, screams echoing. Not just in my head, but aloud. Blackwood lunged, but shards pierced him. He crumpled, blood pooling. The theater went dark. Sirens wailed outside. Police found me amid the wreckage. Blackwood dead from accidental injuries. No mirror fragments, just dust. Victor vanished, his casino empire claiming ignorance. The missing? Still gone, cases cold. Back in San Francisco, I tried to forget. But sometimes in reflections, windows, puddles, I see them. Emily, Mark, whispering, waiting. Was it real or the ultimate illusion? I don't know, but if you ever get an invite to a Blackwood show, decline. Story 7, I never believed in magic. Not the real kind anyway. Sure, I'd seen my share of card tricks and disappearing acts on the Vegas Strip, where illusions are as common as slot machines. But true sorcery? That was for fairy tales and horror flicks. My name is Alex Harper, a 32-year-old software engineer from Seattle, Washington. I was in Las Vegas for a tech conference in October 2023, the kind where coders like me drone on about AI and blockchain. To unwind, I decided to catch a show at the Mirage, or what was left of it before they remodeled. That's where I first heard about Elias Thorne's Midnight Mirage performance. It was off the main strip in a rundown theater called the Eclipse Lounge, tucked away on East Sahara Avenue. Tickets were cheap, only $20, and the reviews online raved about how unsettlingly real it felt. Little did I know those words would haunt me. The backstory on Elias Thorne was whispered in the casino bars like urban legends. Born in rural Kansas in the 1970s, Elias, real name Elijah Thornton, grew up in a dusty town called Abilene. His father was a preacher, the fire and brimstone type who led revivals under big tents, claiming to cast out demons. Young Elijah was his assistant, helping with miracles that were nothing more than sleight of hand and planted audience members. But one night in 1985, during a storm that knocked out the power, something went wrong. Witnesses said a woman in the crowd started convulsing for real, speaking in tongues that weren't faked. Elijah's father tried an exorcism, but she died right there on the dirt floor. The official report called it a seizure, but rumors spread that Elijah, only 12 at the time, had touched her forehead and whispered something ancient. After that, his father vanished, leaving Elijah to fend for himself in foster homes across the Midwest. By the 2000s, Elijah had reinvented himself as Elias Thorne, a stage magician touring small venues in places like Omaha, Nebraska, and Des Moines, Iowa. He specialized in occult illusions, pulling off tricks that blurred the line between fake and forbidden. One famous act involved summoning spirits from audience volunteers, making them levitate or speak secrets only the dead would know. Critics called it psychological manipulation, but fans swore it was real. In 2015, he settled in Vegas, buying the Eclipse Lounge with mysterious funds. Locals said he never aged a day past 40, his skin pale and eyes like black voids. I dismissed it all as hype when I bought my ticket. Marketing, right? Make the magician seem spooky to sell seats. The night of the show was unseasonably cold for Vegas, a chill wind whipping down the avenue as I parked my rental car, a bland Toyota from Hertz at McCarran Airport. The Eclipse Lounge looked like a relic from the 80s, neon sign flickering with a half-burnt E that made it read Clips. Inside, the lobby smelled of stale popcorn and mothballs, walls lined with faded posters of old acts, Houdini knockoffs and ventriloquists long forgotten. About 50 people milled around, a mix of tourists and locals. I grabbed a seat in the third row, center stage, nursing a watered-down beer from the bar. The lights dimmed at exactly midnight, no preamble. A spotlight hit the stage, revealing Elias Thorne. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 4 inches, dressed in a tailored black suit with a red cravat that looked like dried blood. His hair was slicked back, silver at the temples, and those eyes, God, those eyes pierced right through you. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice smooth as velvet but with a Kansas drawl underneath, "welcome to the Midnight Mirage. Tonight we dance with the shadows. But remember, some shadows dance back." The show started innocently enough. Card tricks with a twist. He'd have someone pick a card, then burn it in a flame, only for it to reappear in their wallet, singed around the edges. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Then came the levitation. He called up a volunteer, a young woman named Sarah from Phoenix, Arizona. She lay on a board, and with a wave of his hand, she rose into the air. No wires visible. I leaned forward, trying to spot the harness or mirrors, but nothing. Sarah giggled at first, then her face went slack, eyes rolling back. "The spirits lift her," Elias intoned. When she descended, she whispered something to him, face pale, and hurried back to her seat without a word. Suspense built with the next act. The memory mirror. Elias unveiled an antique mirror, framed in tarnished gold, claiming it was from a haunted mansion in New Orleans. "This glass reflects not your face, but your forgotten sins," he said. He invited a man named Mike, a burly trucker from Salt Lake City, Utah, to stare into it. Mike laughed it off, but as Elias chanted in what sounded like Latin, Mike's reflection warped. His face in the mirror aged rapidly, wrinkles deepening, eyes sinking. The audience gasped. Mike stumbled back, swearing he saw his late brother in the glass, accusing him of a childhood accident that killed him. "How'd you know that?" Mike demanded, voice shaking. Elias just smiled. "The mirror never lies." I felt a prickle on my neck, like someone watching me. Glancing around, I noticed the theater felt smaller, the exits farther away. The air grew heavier, laced with a faint metallic scent, like blood. Elias announced the intermission, and I stepped out for fresh air, but the lobby doors were locked. "Technical issue," a usher said, shrugging. Back inside, whispers buzzed. "Did you see that guy's face?" Felt too real. I shook it off. Great production values, that's all. The second half escalated. Elias brought out a wooden box, carved with symbols I didn't recognize. The Pandora's Chest, he called it, from an old estate sale in Salem, Massachusetts. Inside, he said, were relics of the damned. He asked for 3 volunteers, a couple from Chicago, Illinois, Tom and Lisa, and me. Why me? His eyes locked on mine from the stage. "You, sir, the skeptic in the third row. Come, prove it's all smoke and mirrors." My heart pounded as I climbed the steps. Up close, Elias smelled of incense and decay. He handed each of us an item from the box. Tom got a rusted key, Lisa a faded photograph of a Victorian woman, and me a small obsidian stone, cool to the touch. Hold them tight, he instructed. They will reveal your deepest fears. The lights dimmed further, spotlights narrowing to us four on stage. Tom went first. As Elias waved his hands, the key in Tom's palm glowed faintly. Tom gasped, dropping it. I see a door. In my basement back home. Something's behind it, scratching. His voice cracked. Elias nodded. The key unlocks what you've buried. Tom bolted off stage, muttering about calling home. Lisa next. The photo shimmered and she screamed. Her eyes! They're moving! She's me, but dead! She hurled the photo away, collapsing into sobs. Ushers let her off, but I caught her whispering, "It was my abortion." How does he know? Then me. The obsidian stone warmed in my hand, pulsing like a heartbeat. Elias leaned in, breath hot on my ear. What do you fear, Alex Harper? How did he know my name? I hadn't said it. Visions flooded my mind. Not illusions, but memories I'd suppressed. My sister Emily, back in Seattle. We'd been kids playing near Lake Washington. I dared her to swim out far. She drowned. Accident, they said. But in the stone, I saw her face underwater, accusing eyes staring up. You let me go, her voice echoed in my head. I flung the stone away, staggering back. The audience murmured, but Elias caught my arm. The show must go on, he whispered, for her sake. What did he mean? The finale was the eclipse escape. Elias chained himself inside a glass coffin, submerged in a tank of water on stage. Classic Houdini stuff, but with a horror twist. The water was infused with ectoplasm, he claimed, glowing green under UV lights. As he sank, bubbles rising, the theater went pitch black. Screams erupted, not from the act, but real ones. Lights flickered back, and the tank was empty. Elias gone. But so were Tom and Lisa, their seats vacant. Panic spread. Where are they? Someone yelled. Elias reappeared on stage in a puff of smoke, unchained. They've crossed over, he said calmly, to the other side of the mirage. The crowd surged for the exits, but the doors were bolted. I pushed through, heart racing, only to find the lobby empty, the street outside shrouded in fog unnatural for Vegas. Sirens wailed in the distance. Elias's voice boomed over speakers. The show isn't over until the dawn breaks the spell. I hid in the balcony, watching as ushers, now looking gaunt and shadowy, herded people back. One by one, audience members vanished during encore tricks Elias performed on the fly. A woman from Denver, Colorado, disappeared into a vanishing cabinet, her screams echoing long after. A man from San Francisco tried to fight, but Elias touched his forehead, and he crumpled, whispering forgotten sins. My phone had no signal. I crept backstage, finding props that weren't props. The mirror reflected not me, but Emily's drowned face. The obsidian stone lay on a table, pulsing. Digging through Elias's dressing room, I found clippings. Old newspapers from Abilene, 1985. The woman who died, Elias's mother, not a stranger. His father hadn't vanished. Elias had killed him, burying the body under the revival tent. The miracles were real occult rituals he'd learned from forbidden books smuggled from Europe. Deeper in, a journal. Entries about harvesting souls during shows to stay young, feeding on fears. The eclipse lounge is my altar, one page read. Vegas devours dreamers. I devour their essence. Dates matched missing persons reports I'd vaguely heard about. Tourists vanishing after off-strip shows. Suspense peaked as I heard footsteps. Elias entered, eyes glowing faintly. Alex, you can't leave. Emily waits for you. He lunged, but I grabbed the obsidian stone, smashing it against the mirror. Shards exploded, and a howl filled the room. Not human. The theater shook, lights shattered. In the chaos, doors burst open. I ran into the night, fog lifting as dawn crept over the strip. Police swarmed the eclipse, but Elias was gone. The lounge empty as if abandoned for years. Tom, Lisa, and others never found. Official report, mass hallucination from a gas leak. But I know better. Months later back in Seattle, I avoid mirrors. Sometimes in the corner of my eye, I see Emily. And last week, a flyer in my mailbox. Midnight Mirage, now in Portland, Oregon. Elias's face unchanged. I burn it, but the ashes reform the words. The show must go on. Story 8, I never believed in real magic. I grew up knowing every trick had wires, mirrors, hidden doors, some logical explanation waiting to be uncovered. That belief followed me all the way into adulthood, into my career as an event coordinator in the city of Blackwater, Oregon. I booked concerts, comedy nights, private shows. Nothing impressed me anymore. That's why I agreed to handle the booking for Elias Crow. His name didn't mean anything to me at first. Just another illusionist touring small American cities looking for exposure. But the email he sent wasn't like others. It wasn't flashy. No promises of mind-blowing illusions. Just one sentence. I don't perform tricks. I perform endings. Something about that line stuck with me longer than it should have. Blackwater Theater was old, built in 1928, closed for nearly 2 decades after a fire killed 3 stagehands during a renovation. Locals said the place never felt right after that. Electrical failures, unexplained noises, people quitting mid-shift without explanation. I didn't believe the rumors. I needed the money. The city approved reopening the theater for limited events, and Elias Crow requested only that venue. No substitutions, no modern upgrades, no inspections beyond basic safety. I should have said no, but I didn't. I met Elias 2 days before the show. He was tall, thin, mid-40s maybe. His hair was prematurely gray, his face pale like he rarely saw sunlight. His eyes bothered me the most, dark, sunken, and oddly knowing, as if he already recognized me. "You're the coordinator," he said before I introduced myself. "I am," I replied. "You're Elias." He smiled slightly. "You don't believe in magic." It wasn't a question. I laughed awkwardly. "Not really." "Good," he said. "Neither did the others." I didn't ask what he meant. The rehearsal was strange from the start. No assistants, no animals, no props besides a large antique wooden cabinet placed center stage. The wood was scratched, darkened with age, and smelled faintly of iron. "What's inside it?" I asked. Elias didn't look at me. Regret. The theater lights flickered during rehearsal. My phone battery drained from 90% to dead in less than 10 minutes. The security cameras refused to stay on. When Elias stepped into the cabinet for a test illusion, the temperature in the room dropped sharply. I could see my breath, then knocking. From inside the cabinet, 3 slow knocks. Elias stepped out smiling, untouched. "Perfect," he said. I went home that night with a headache that felt like someone pressing fingers into my skull. The show sold out. That should have been impossible. We barely advertised. Yet every seat was filled. Families, couples, college students, elderly locals who swore they'd never step foot in that theater again. I stood backstage, clipboard in hand, watching the crowd murmur nervously. Elias walked past me, already dressed in black. "Remember," he said quietly, "don't interrupt the final trick, no matter what you hear." My mouth went dry. "Hear what?" But he was already on stage. The first illusions were simple: card tricks, mind reading, predicting audience choices with eerie accuracy. Then things escalated. He called volunteers on stage, people who looked confused, even scared, but unable to refuse. Elias revealed personal details about them, things not found online, dead siblings, repressed memories, crimes never confessed. One woman collapsed in tears. The audience thought it was part of the act. I didn't. For the final act, Elias rolled the cabinet back into the spotlight. "This trick," he announced, "requires honesty." He asked for one volunteer. A man named Thomas Reed stepped forward. Mid-30s, nervous smile, local resident. Elias whispered something to him. Thomas went pale. "I don't want to," Thomas began. The audience laughed, assuming drama. Elias gently guided Thomas into the cabinet and locked the door. The lights dimmed. At first there was silence, then scratching, Then screaming, real screaming. People shifted in their seats, uneasy. Some laughed nervously. Others started filming. I moved toward the stage. From inside the cabinet, Thomas screamed my name. "I know what you did," he sobbed. "Please, don't let him." The knocking started again. Louder this time. Desperate. I reached for the curtain rope and remembered Elias's warning. The scream stopped. The theater went silent. Elias opened the cabinet. It was empty. No trapdoor, no mirror, no false panel, just dark stains on the wooden floor. The audience erupted into applause. I stood frozen. Thomas Reed was never found. Police ruled it a disappearance. No evidence. No crime scene. Elias Crow vanished that same night. The theater was shut down again. So why, 3 months later, did I receive another email? Same sender, same sentence. "I don't perform tricks, I perform endings." This time the location listed was my home address, and attached was a ticket, front row. I hear knocking now. 3 slow knocks from inside my closet, and I finally believe in magic.